Sprinkles, Santa Claus's special elf. Because everything is special with sprinkles. Santa Claus knows you're special too, and he has something to say to you. So listen close as Santa Claus shares holiday cheer with you. You can leave a special message for Santa Claus and get on the nice list at www.santaclaussays.net. Now here is the big man himself, Santa Claus!
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas time to all the boys and girls of the world, including you. I see every one of you, and I love you, and Santa Claus is here for you here on Santa Claus Says.net to bring you three things every day between now and Christmas. The three things are to bring Christmas cheer, and we have sprinkles to help us to do that, our elf. And then we also have a couple of great jokes, maybe not so great jokes, but they are funny jokes. Then we also tell a Christmas story, and we also have a letter to Santa. You can send your own letter to Santa by going to my website, which is SantaClausSays.net. And there you can leave me an email or a voicemail or a text message, and I will get those, and we will have a lot of fun together. And you may even hear me read your letter or your text or your listen to your voicemail right here on Santa Claus Says. Well, there's the glockenspiel, boys and girls, which means it is time for our Christmas cheer time, which is jokes from Santa Claus. What's Santa's favorite kind of roll? A carol. Get it? A Christmas carol. One more. Why does Mrs. Claus love the Christmas season? It makes her feel so sentimental. Sentimental, get it? It makes her feel so sentimental. Well, that is so wonderful, boys and girls. Ah, there's the glockenspiel, but you know what that means. It means it's time for Santa Claus's story time. And our story time, we've been telling the story the last few days here about the elf who found Christmas. And we're going to continue that story here tonight and the next few days. So you always want to tune in to SantaClausSays.net to get the story. You can hear the stories from the past leading up to now. And now you can hear the story and in the future. You don't want to miss any of Santa's stories, especially, and I'll tell you about it here in a little bit, my special stories for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. But right now, let's read the story about the elf who found Christmas. It goes like this. Lady Arabella, remember who Lady Arabella was? The doll was a big little girl doll. And Mary thought that was the elf had made her for little Princess Maud. It happened this way. Early in December, Santa Claus had a letter from Princess Maud's grandmother in which she said she would like Princess Maud to have a big little girl doll for Christmas this year. And Santa Claus took the letter to Merrythought, his best workman, and Merrythought sat himself down and made Lady Arabella. Now, Merrythought was so tired of curly hair and lace dresses with satin bows and pale blue shoes that we made it there. And so it became the time of late afternoon on Christmas Eve. It was the busiest moment of the whole year at Santa Claus's snow palace at the very tippy top of the North Pole. And the great sleigh stood in front of the door, the 8 tiny reindeer harnessed and in place before it, and in and out the palace scurried the elves, packing the sleigh with the toys they had been at work upon for all the long year. Out came the trains, the wagons, the sleds. Nimpletoes sped by with his arms full of teddy bears and jumping jacks, and Sweet Tooth staggered along with his loads of candy. And 50 different kinds. And Silver Tongue carried toy cats and dogs, and elephants and sheep and camels. And very gently, Kind Heart brought out the dolls, tucking them carefully into warm and comfortable nooks. Mischief dragged down the steps two rocking horses at a time, their names and tails blowing in the frosty air. Fleetfoot and Merrythought were everywhere at once, tying a bicycle to the back of the sleigh, pushing in a stray Noah's Ark, squeezing a jack in a box into place. Little by little, the sleigh was filled. Higher and higher grew the pile of toys. It was more and more difficult to find a place for each toy. Sharp eyes ran about, picking out the last few toys that had been dropped here and there. Merrythought stood by the reindeer, rubbing Dasher's head, patting Dancer on his furry nose. Santa Claus drew on his gloves. It was almost time to start. Suddenly, Mischief, whose face is growing very red, called out, "Where is Lady Arabella? We have forgotten Lady Arabella." Everyone looked at everyone else. It was true, quite true. They had forgotten Lady Arabella. Mischief, always as quick as a flash, darted into the palace to come running out again, holding Lady Arabella by the hand. "I found her!" cried Mischief. "I found her!" She was hiding behind the curtain on the windowsill. But still Santa Claus. But look, Santa Claus, she is crying. Lady Arabella is crying. And so it was. Lady Arabella was crying, in spite of her tiny handkerchief, which she pulled from her pinafore pocket. The tears ran down her pretty pink cheeks and to the end of her little nose. It was all red. The elves stared at Lady Arabella, and Santa Claus stared too. Such a thing as a crying doll had never happened before. The toys were always happy and excited on Christmas Eve, looking forward to their new homes, wherever Santa Claus might leave them. "What is the matter, Lady Arabella?" asked Santa Claus in his kindest voice. "Have you a pain? Are you hungry? What is the matter with you?" "I am homesick," sobbed Lady Arabella. "I am homesick and lonely too. I don't want to go riding all alone, lonely. I want Merrythought to go with me. I do, I do, I do." "But you will not be alone," said Santa Claus in surprise. "There is a nice place for you beside Red Jumping Jack. Look and see. He will hold one hand, and White Polar Bear will hold the other. I am sure you will not be lonely if you only make up your mind not to cry." But Lady Arabella shook her head and danced up and down and cried louder than ever. "No, no!" cried Lady Arabella, shaking her elbows as if she would like to poke the Red Jumping Jack and the White Polar Bear. "I want Merrythought. I want Merrythought to go with me, or else I won't go at all." And here Lady Arabella threw herself on the ground and kicked with all her might and main, and, and you could scarcely see her brown shoes and stockings. Lady Arabella kicked them to and fro so very fast. A strange way indeed for Lady Arabella to act. It didn't seem at all like a doll who'd been made to live with a princess. Surely such a doll would be on her best behavior every moment of the time. But you have thought it was still more strange if you could have seen Mischief hiding down in the sleigh. All of the other elves were so sorry for Lady Arabella they looked quite troubled. One of the two of them looked quite shocked. But Mischief was not troubled at all. He had almost seemed trying not to laugh. He was muttering to himself as well. And Silvertongue said afterward that he thought he heard him say, "Hooray for you, Lady Arabella. That is a good tantrum. That is one of the best tantrums I have ever seen." Now, Santa Claus was like the elves. He was troubled to see Lady Arabella unhappy, and it was growing late, too. "Dear me," said Santa Claus, rubbing his nose with his great fur glove. "Dear me, little Princess Maud won't have a doll who's been crying. Perhaps you'd better jump in," Mary thought. "I'd go with us after all." "Yes, sir," said Merrythought. His breath was quite taken away at the thought of going around the world with Santa Claus on Christmas Eve. But he managed to raise Lady Arabella to her feet, and together they quickly climbed into place in the sleigh. Mischief tucked the robe around Lady Arabella and patted her hand, and Santa Claus gathered up the reins and he cracked his whip, and the elves gave three loud cheers, and the sleigh was off. Lady Arabella was still behaving strangely. She wiped her eyes and smiled round at Merrythought. She was not at all ashamed of having had a tantrum, although Red Jumping Jack and the White Polar Bear gave her a scornful look. Then she hid her face on Merrythought's shoulder and laughed and laughed and laughed. And not until they were well out of sight of the palace was she able to sit around straight and look about her as she rode. Now, have you guessed the secret that Lady Arabella and Mischief have between them? Just think for a moment, and I'm sure that you will. And that's what I want you boys and girls to be thinking about, the secret between Merrythought and Lady Arabella. And we'll come back to the story when we come back again here on Santa Claus Says tomorrow. So you want to tune in tomorrow to the rest, to the remaining, to the next part of the story about the elf who found Christmas. Well, there's our glockenspiel, boys and girls, which means it is time for our letter to Santa. And our letter to Santa today is from Crystal. And Crystal says, I would like for Christmas an iPhone 16. And I want to help the elves for Christmas. Well, that's wonderful. I'm glad that you would like an iPhone, Crystal, and I think we'll see what surprises Santa Claus can bring you. But I'm so happy to hear that you want to help the elves. We have lots of elves here, but it's nice that you want to help. But the most important people you can help is your family and your friends and your teachers. You help them. When you help them, Santa Claus sees what you're doing, and you can be very helpful. I love it that you want to help the elves and me, but I really want you to help around the house and around with your parents and other people who live in your household. And I want you to help them out and help out your teachers and your friends. If you help them out, you are helping Santa and the elves. And I want all the boys and girls of the world to be helpful, and that is a wonderful thing to do. That is what puts you on the nice list. And also, in order to be on the nice list or understand that you can always send a letter and check out and make sure you're on the nice list with Santa Claus. You can write me or you can contact me at santaclaussays.net. And that is where we have, you can send me a voicemail, you could send me an email, or you can send me a text message, and I will get those things as well. Well, that is good letter. So reach out to Santa Claus because I love you and I want to hear from you. Well, there's the glockenspiel, boys and girls, and that means it's just about time for us to wrap up this episode of Santa Claus Says. I want to remind you that we have two very special episodes of Santa Claus Says coming up on Christmas Eve when at 8:30 p.m. we read it live here on youtube.com. We have The Night Before Christmas and All Through the House, and you can hear that wonderful story. And we are all every night here on YouTube at youtube.com/Santa Claus Says, and then on podcast at santaclaussays.net and on Apple Podcast and all the other podcast directories. You can hear us there. You can also understand that we have a very special show on Christmas Day, December 25th. Our Christmas Eve show is December 24th. Then the next morning on Christmas Day, we will have a special show at about 10 o'clock a.m. on Christmas Day, Eastern Time, when we read the Christmas story of the first Christmas. We read it from the Bible, the birth of Jesus. We want you to hear that. Remember that down here at santaclaussays.net, you can always find us at youtube.com/Santa Claus Says and at santaclaussays.net. And we are here for you every day between now and Christmas. We love you. Remember now that Santa Claus Says is about three things: to bring Christmas cheer, to tell a wonderful Christmas story, and to read letters to Santa. And we want to hear from you. Until next time, boys and girls, have a merry, very merry, wonderful Christmas as we get ready. Not too long from now is Christmas time. And you remember the milk and cookies for Santa. I appreciate that so much. Now, also, I want you to remember that Santa Claus says, be good for goodness sake. Ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas!
You're special to Santa Claus, just like Sprinkles. Get on Santa's nice list at santaclaussays.net and watch Santa Claus Says live on YouTube. Tell him Sprinkles sent you.